Settlers Gain is a free city in the lands of Zintil, in the realm of Haish. A glimmering city is held as an example of the ideal city and a utopia of learning and wonder. Every part of the city, from the paving of the roads to crystals floating above, are placed following Zintological ideas, meant to aid the process of refining one's mind and soul. Most of the city's menial labour is taken care of by solar-powered automata, so that the citizens can focus on ascending the city's tall prison-top spires. The city is built around a meritocratic system of philosophical, arcane and theological tests. Those that pass the rigorous testing process are allowed to climb another level, moving up the city's tall towers, while those that don't meet the high standards of the Lumineth Invulgators are forced to stay behind. Very few non-elves have ever passed these trials, as they require decades of intense studying and training. Time that very few outside the long-lived elven race can ill afford. The growing number of those unable to ascend are known as the Earthbound, and slowly resentment against the city system is growing. To prevent unrest, the leaders of Settlers Gain have started to take away troublemakers, correcting them via crystalline enlightened prisms, or simply sending them out into the realms on military expeditions, diplomatic missions, or as missionaries for the city's ways. So, how do we start building a Settlers Gain army? So to start with, it is a Cities of Sigmar subfaction. You can find the rules for this particular subfaction inside Broken Realms Teclis. So, as mentioned, it's a Cities of Sigmar army. This means we get all the rules associated with Cities of Sigmar, all the generic ones like the Empowered Endless Spells, the General's Adjutant, Loyal Shields, and the Honoured Retinue rules. All of them. We also get the Storm Keeps as well. In addition, we can take 1 in 4 units for our army to be Lumineth Realm Lords, which is pretty cool. Warriors of the Higher District. So we can take 1 in 4 to be Stormcast and 1 in 4 to be Lumineth. This means for every 4 units, 1 can be Stormcast, 1 can be Lumineth, and 2 need to be Cities of Sigmar. In addition, we can choose 1 extra Settlers Gain Free Good Hero or Settlers Gain Collegiate Arcane Hero, the humans in the city, to have an additional artifact of power. And in addition, all our Collegiate Arcane Wizards get +1 to cast. Pretty nifty. We then got the command ability for Settlers Gain, which you can pick 1 friendly Settlers Gain Lumineth Realm Lords hero, and you don't take battle shock tests in that phase for friendly Settlers Gain Free Guild or Settlers Gain Collegiate Arcane units wholly within 18 inches of that hero. Pretty awesome, I think. I'm not sure if there's any Collegiate Arcane units that need to worry about battle shock, but it's in there. Anyway, that's the main thing. This army obviously has a massive magic focus, and it likes to really build upon that human and Lumineth connection that it has. So without a doubt, that is exactly what we're going to try and build here. So let's get looking at how do we start a Settlers Gain army. So where do we begin to build up our Settlers Gain army? My first suggestion would be picking up the Celestial Hurricanum with Celestial Battle Mage kit. This can also be built as the Luminarch of Haish kit as well, but I think the Hurricanum is a better place to start. My reasoning for this is that Hurricanum gives you +1 to cast. Now you're going to combine that with the fact you're getting +1 to cast as well from being a Collegiate Arcane Wizard in Settlers Gain, so straight away this model's got a +2 to cast. I think that's a very solid wizard to have at the start of our force. It's got some good mortal wound potential, and it has a decent War Scroll spell as well. So I really think this is a great solid wizard to start around, building our army around. Now you could also choose to build the wizard on foot and just have the Hurricanum separate, which is a decent option as well, because it'll allow you to make use of the Honoured Retinue and Adjutant rules a lot better, so that is definitely an option there. However, you just need 2 boxes of some variation of Free Guild troops here, I think, to really get the most out of Settlers Gain to start your force. So I'm thinking a box of Free Guild Guard and a box of Handgunners. You can build them in whatever iteration you want, and the Handgunners could quite easily be Crossbowmen if that's your choice, or even something like Pistoliers or Outriders, though they don't become battle line in this particular army. So with that said, this is generally, I think, the best way to start in whichever way you want to do. If you're not sure on weapon options, we've got a video talking about how to choose between swords, spears and shields and all that sort of stuff on the channel, which you might find useful. But let's look at where we can expand our force from here, and then we'll get into a list at the end. So where can we go to expand our Settlers Gain force from our initial lot? So to start with, I'd start thinking about Lumineth Realm Lord unit you want to bring in. We want to do this so we get that Battle Shock immunity ability across the army, otherwise we're not making full use of everything we're getting from Settlers Gain. So I think there's a few variations of units you can bring in from Settlers Gain. Now the one I've got pigeon here is the Venari Blade Lords, and the reason I've got them there is because I think they do a different job to the Great Swords next to them. So we'll talk about them first. The Venari Blade Lords, I think their best effect is when they're hitting giant hordes and getting in as many attacks with that flurry of blows as they possibly can. I think that is the best way to use them. And Great Swords are a great counter option to them. Great Swords don't have those massive attacks, but do have a better quality of attack that also does some mortal wounds as well. So I think these two units could actually work in great unison in an army and have two different things being able to do two different jobs across your army, picking your fights where you want your Blade Lords or your Great Swords. They can work really well together as well, hitting into something and then them hitting maybe the character to try and mortal wound it off the board. Now, you've got other options, obviously, with your Lumineth Realm Lord units as well. The Huracan Spirit of the Wind is a great one where you can't do, where your opponent isn't allowed to pile in, or even things like the Wind Charges as well with their insane movement. Not just that, we've got your old units as well. Sentinels with their shooting is a really great option on top of all the wizards available as well. Least not forgetting, Teclis himself is fantastic, especially when you consider you've got empowered endless spells here. So that means you can have Teclis casting empowered endless spells, which is amazing. We've then got the Battle Mage is, I reckon, a decent shout to go pick up some more of them. We get a bunch of abilities building around Battle Mages, so why not grab another? You could easily fit another couple into an army, especially if you're building up to 2,000, and the kit that you get for them is awesome as there's a ton of different models you can build up and paint. Really, really cool kit with a bunch of different abilities. A personal favourite of mine is the Light Mage, the Haish Mage, which fits in well here with the theme, and his spell Fast Protection, which you get to pick one of your units and make them -1 to hit for the enemy units targeting them. My last pick here is Phoenix Guard, and this one's in here mainly because, well, for those who played back in the old world, Phoenix Guard were a high elf unit, so it just feels right maybe including some Phoenix Guard in this particular city sub-faction, I reckon. Not just that, maybe Shadow Warriors as well, and you could finally bring in those two high elf units and build up a full high elf army. It'd be awesome to see, I reckon. And Phoenix Guard are good enough, along with Shadow Warriors, they're both good enough units that they don't really need to be taking advantage of a lot of the city's rules. They're just good scrolls on their own that work in nearly any city that you put them in. So we've got a little sample army list for Settlers Gain. How do we go about putting this list together though and talk about what it all sort of does? So 990 points means potentially getting a Triumph. All Triumphs are pretty useful with this army. I don't think any one of them is more wanted than any of the others really. For our leaders, we're going to have a Battle Mage. He's going to be from the Realm of Haish, and you can easily acquire this model if you built the Celestial Hurricanum or the Luminarch. In whichever variation you go, you will have this Battle Mage ready to be put on foot there. Now, he's going to be our general, and he's going to have the command trait Strategic Mastermind, which means he generates command points on a 4+ if he's on the battlefield, just as if he were a general's adjutant himself. Then got the artifact, the Silver-Plated Wand, which gives us an extra spell to cast, and the spell Drain Magic, which puts a -2 to cast, unbind, and dispel on the board. It's pretty useful. What's worth noting though is that this affects everyone, including your own wizards, so always cast this spell last. We then got a Battle Mage, Realm of Fire, but really you can go whatever you want. You can even double down on Haish if you really want some contingency there. But for me, I've got a cool Fire Wizard, the old limited edition one, so that's why I like to use Fire Wizards, but it can really be whatever you want. He's the General's Adjutant, got the artifact, the Talisman of Dispellation, and it's because we have an endless spell on the list, but also in case our opponent brings any endless spells, you effectively get to dispel an endless spell without losing your cast. Then got the spell Shield of Light. Now this is a little bit hard to cast, but it does have a cool ability where it puts up a 6-up Feel No Pain across the board for you. Now, battle line wise, we've got 20 Free Guild Guard and 10 Free Guild Handgunners who are going to be our honoured retinue. The reason why the Handgunners, well, they're probably the most sacrificial. That 20 Free Guild Guard is really going to hold a lot of objectives for us in the game. In our other units options, we've got 5 Venari Blade Lords and 10 Free Guild Greatswords. Like we've mentioned before, these are really horses for courses here. You've got to pick the targets for these units correctly. They will have different units that they do well against, but I think having a unit of each in the army will really be beneficial. You'll be able to deal with most threats with units of these in the army. For our Behemoth, we've got a Celestial Hurricaneum, and as mentioned, this is going to enable our Battle Mages to get +2 to cast, which is going to mean a lot of spells go off really easy. We'll round out the list with the Quicksilver Swords, which is a pretty nifty endless spell when it's empowered because it starts having more dice to roll. For me, this is the coolest sort of thing to do. I really like the idea of Settlers Gain, and I really hope we see more Cities of Sigmar stuff like this, hopefully Orphan Khan in the future. But what do you think of this list? What do you think of Settlers Gain? How are you going about starting a new Settlers Gain army? I'd be really interested to know what all your thoughts are. Well, thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our little community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by coming and joining our Discord server, which you'll find a link to in the description of the video. While you're on YouTube as well, go check out my featured channel section, which contains a bunch of other fantastic Age of Sigmar content creators doing everything from battle reports, tactical videos, lore videos, painting tutorials, and more besides that. Lastly though, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Soren, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Chaospawn, James Crowder, and Andrew Bowen. Thank you all so much for your support. And if you'd like to help support the channel like these fine people do, you can do so by clicking once again on the links down in the description of the video to either YouTube members or Patreon. Thank you all for supporting the channel though, watching the content. Have a nice day, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.